Okay, so
So
then you're an astrologer, yes?
no, actually, I've just
Ah,
read a lot about it. I
okay,
am not a
okay,
trained astrologer. If I were going to talk about what I know about astrology, I have a good idea of what the sun signs are. I have some idea of
okay.
what the moon signs are. Um, I I also know a good deal about the planets because I also have an interest in astronomy and space
Okay.
exploration. So the
All
two
right.
kind of play together. Both sets of knowledge are complementary.
Mhm.
Not necessarily that professionals in one field are complementary about the
Mhm.
other, but
Yeah.
knowing both, it actually helps. But where I would
Uh,
say my knowledge is very weak is like what the houses are all about and what
okay.
aspects are doing. You know, those
Okay.
areas I don't have a good grasp on
Okay.
as
You know what
far
they
as
say about astrologers? They say all astrologers are astronomers, but not all astronomers are astrologers.
that makes total sense, especially when you
it's,
know
it's
anything about
logical.
astrology.
it's
It
true.
does. Now, my wife,
Yeah.
on the other hand, she's retired. I want to stress that fact because she doesn't want to do work anymore, and to her, astrology
Okay.
is work unless she's doing it just for her own personal
Okay.
reasons. But she's a retired AFA certified astrologer. So,
Okay.
and
Do you know in the United States, does the AFA still exist? The American, Association of Astrologers, that still exist?
it was, I believe, the American Federation of
Yeah.
Astrologers, and I do not know. I would have to
Mm.
actually check. I'm pretty sure it does, and I
Okay.
know my other half would know, but that's a question I'd have to answer later.
Yeah, ask her because I was a member of the AFA, during many years. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, I've been to one of their congresses that used to be in Las Vegas.
Hmm.
So I was there once. Yeah, an amazing experience. You had like 1,200 astrologers in one hotel. And I was
Yeah,
very young. I must have been something like 25 or something when I was there. Yeah.
we were at something very similar in 2016 in Los Angeles. We
Yeah.
had moved out here to California the year before, and it was called ISAR and ISAR, and I believe it's International Society for Astrological Research. I
Okay.
think
Okay.
that is
I
what
don't
the
know.
acronym stands for. That was definitely very interesting, and I had a couple of T-shirts made for my wife and I that had our charts like right on them.
So you born in 62 as well, huh, buddy? Yeah,
Yeah. Oh
we're
yeah.
the same year. Huh? It's unbelievable, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that when I was born, yeah, my dad he had a close report with Mark Edmund Jones. I don't know if you know Mark Edmund Jones. Do you know him?
Mm-mm.
Mark Edmund Jones is actually the father of humanistic astrology. All the people like Dane Rudyard, like Goldberg, like Jeff Green, Liz Green, they all come from that school. It's actually the founder of the Sabian astrology. Sabian
Yeah.
astrology, you must have heard about that, yes? Yeah.
Yeah,
And when
I
I'm
have. I've
yeah,
heard of Sabian symbols and Sabian
okay,
astrology. I know of it. I don't know about it.
about it, yeah. So
Yeah.
it was a fascinating group, and Mark Edmund Jones is the father of that school, yeah. And when I was born, uh, my dad sent him my birth data, yeah, and he interpreted actually my chart, yeah. And in the next following weeks, I'm going to inherit all the stuff that my dad left behind, which is actually quite, amazing. These, if I'm, and as soon as I have it, I will publish it in our group. What Mark Edmund Jones wrote about it. It's like a 3-page, A4 format interpretation of our chart, of that stellium under which we are born. Fascinating. I read it
Yeah.
once when I was much younger. So, but as soon as I have my hands on it, I will publish it.
You
I'll
might,
share it.
yeah, you might want to contact the mountain astrologer too, and clue them in on that. I'm sure they
Yeah.
would love to have it. You've heard of the Mountain Astrologer before?
No. No.
It's actually a longtime print magazine of astrology here in the United States. I believe they're based out of Oregon, if I remember correctly.
Uh-huh.
But the Mountain Astrologer is very well respected in the United States.
Okay.
It's, I believe, bi-monthly periodical on astrology. So that would be definitely, I think it's just mountainastrologer.com, but that would be a place to reach out. Um, and one of their regular contributors, Ray Grassi, I've actually met in person
Hmm.
through an astrologer that we knew in the Chicago area,
Yeah.
and also as a member of the Theosophical Society, which I and my wife were for a couple of years
Hmm.
when we lived in Illinois, because their U.S. headquarters is in Illinois, not far from where we lived. Um, and Ray writes for the Mountain Astrologer fairly often. Uh,
Hmm.
so it's a pretty good magazine and fairly well known around the United States
I'll
in
have a look at it.
astrology
Yeah.
circles.
So if I understand well, it's actually your wife that's more into astrology. Yeah. You were know a little bit about it because you're sort of in it with your wife. Yeah. But then you're
Actually,
part of the.
I
Yeah.
was reading about astrology long before I met my wife. It's just that I have not really been able to just focus on astrology. And
Okay.
that's probably pretty common for people in our stellium because we have such a wide array of interests. It's
Yeah.
hard, it's hard to narrow our focus. It takes a pretty good amount of effort and
Yeah.
discipline to narrow our focus down to one thing for any real length
That's
of
true.
time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I've read several books on astrology starting in the late 70s when I was in high school. The first book I ever read on the topic was Linda Goodman's Sun Signs. I
Hmm.
still have the paperback copy of that. Um, there was
I've
also
read
a
that as
book,
well.
right? And then there's another book on moon signs that I read cover to cover, so I understand kind of what's going on with the Aries moon that's in my chart. Um, I've also kind of picked away at a few others there, but after that, my focus kind of changed. I mean, most of my stellium is in the fifth and sixth house. And since it's about me, I at least learned what the sixth house is about because that's the majority of it. And it's about work and service and career. Well, let me tell you, work, 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 work with a huge stellium in the sixth house. That's like seems like all you do. So yeah. So I've had once I passed. Was about 17 years old, and even before then, I was working. I mean, I had a paper route starting at 11 years old, you
Hmm.
know, delivering newspapers. I was working an after school job in high school, a couple of different ones. And then I went into the Air Force at 17 years old,
Okay.
and I trained to become a radar technician. And that's about all the more I can say about that one.
That's
Yeah,
Mercury in Aquarius. They're
right.
radio technicians.
Yeah, I was through radar technician training
Mm.
probably before I turned 18. Yeah, I was before I turned 18.
Yeah.
I got my GED the same summer I was supposed to turn 18.
Mhm.
They
But you've been a
they
teacher as well, and then you've been a teacher, yeah?
yeah, recently, yes, in the last
Okay.
3 years. Yeah. After the Air Force, it's too much discipline for an Aquarian like me. I couldn't do more than one tour.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I there were a lot of things that I liked about it, but I just it was too regimented for me
I,
to.
I I did my military service when I was in Belgium. I did it. That was 10 months. When I had to go. Yeah, and there where I worked. Yeah, every single guy that went into that division, they when they finished, they became corporal. They gave them two things of becoming a corporal. And I think in the 60 years or something, I was the first one not to receive that. I was the first one not to become a corporal because
Right.
I gave them shit. I can't believe it.
Not to
Oh, that,
mention going in at a young age, we're not mature enough to really handle it
so,
at 17 years old. Really?
but you got Neptune in the third house. I've seen your house, and the Lord of the seventh Neptune. Yeah, because you have Pisces on the seventh house. In the third house, they call that the Lord of the Kingpin. That's what they call that. Yeah, that aspect. Yeah, one of my sister has that. And my sister, she's married to a guy that's extremely famous in Belgium. He's like on television every day. Yeah, and so they put their partner on a pedestal. They put their partner up there. That's the Lord of the seventh in the third house. I just mentioned it because I look at your chart now. Yeah, but also Pisces on the cusp of the seventh house, or having Neptune in the seventh house, which is the same. Yeah, that's a tendency of people that have a tendency to see God in everybody. They idolize people, and they put people on a pedestal. And once they notice that that person in person actually pees and does his thing like everybody else, they drop that person. So they can be very quickly disappointed in somebody. You know. So then I hope I'm not going to disappoint you too fast.
Well, and not exactly 17 anymore either. So,
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah. So I would say that, especially when I was younger, that would be pretty true. But
Mm,
also with age, I think it
yeah.
more plays out in that I like to see the good in everyone first and give everyone a chance, but
Mm,
you also learn after a while, some people are just too much chaos and drama to keep around or stay
yeah.
around. And one of my favorite
Yeah.
life mottos is life is better on a low drama diet.
I agree with that. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's true.
I've
Uh,
been saying
you
that
know,
for
in
a few years now, and
in
I
in French,
really
in French
prefer it
we
that way.
we have a saying in French that is pour vivre heureux, vivons seuls. So to be to have a happy life, live on an island, basically. Live on an island.
That's
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 true.
that's pretty good.
No, I mean, I like that Zoom conference the other day, and I've got to say because we have now that today's aquarium stellium that's up there in the sky. It's going over our stellium. Yeah.
Hmm.
And the last time when we had that Zoom meeting, I was not really prepared for that. I mean, I was just checking in because I was just a member of the group. I joined, I think, not even a month ago or something.
Hmm.
And then I said, okay, there's a Zoom meeting. I said, okay, I liked what I've seen on Facebook. I'll join that Zoom. And but I wasn't actually prepared. But ever since actually we had that Zoom meeting, I've been thinking a lot, and actually there is so much we can do. And there is so much we can do.
We should, and the hard part for us is going to be to try to figure out how do we nail down what are we going to do and
Yeah,
where are we going to where's it going to go when we're done with it and how
yeah,
what's the process
yeah,
and there's going to we can have a billion ideas,
yeah.
but sooner or later we have to pick one or
Yeah.
two or three.
There's one thing that I thought about. Sorry to interrupt,
No, go ahead.
Dan. I don't want to be unpolite, but I thought about this night, and I thought, look, the guys that are born today with that Aquarius stellium, so they're just born, they're babies, yeah. But in 25 years old, yeah, we're going to be 84, and when we're 84, that's when Uranus is going to go around. We're going to have what we call a Uranus return, yeah.
Hmm.
And what I think would be very nice is to throw in a bottle into the ocean for those people that are born today, something that they would be able to open when we become 84. Yeah, a lot of us will be dead already, I suppose. Yeah. But a sort of like a message, we people with that same stellium, apart from Mars, yeah, Mars is not in Aquarius for the moment, yeah. But for the rest, we have everything the same. What's the message actually that we can give to that new generation of Aquarius stellium? You know, that's something that I thought about this night. You
I
just mentioned
Yeah,
it.
I've been thinking about that too, and
As
I
well, yeah.
think yeah, absolutely, because the first thing I said when I found out there was going to be a stellium being born, and someone mentioned the kids that
Yeah.
are a stellium this year and the kids that are going to be born under that, my first thought was, oh, allies being born. Yeah, that was the
Ella,
first
Ella.
thing I thought. But I also think
Yeah.
that one of the things that we can do is give them the benefit of hearing about our life experiences with a similar
Yeah.
stellium and trying to live in amongst the rest of the population that really
Mhm.
does not get, you know, what kind of people we are and what's
Yeah.
behind all this. I mean, I've found over the course of my life that most people around me don't take me very seriously.
Hmm.
And I think it has to do with because I am interested in so many different things and I've read and studied on so many different things that some of the things that I talk about they just have no clue and can't comprehend it. So they
Yeah.
just think, "No, oh, that's just Dan. He's out there in left field." They
Yeah.
have what I call the just Joe syndrome. Yeah, yeah,
Explain.
that's just Joe. I live
I
with
had to
him,
just
and
do.
yeah, it's just Joe.
Uh,
Yeah, he's this
well, the
this
thing is
person.
this, Dan, is that we do come from another planet. Huh? You know, it sounds maybe silly, but I'm sure you understand. Yeah,
My
is
wife
that
says that
don't
all the time.
we come from another planet? Uranus, which who is the Lord of Aquarius. Yeah. Okay, it was the, you know, maybe what I'm going to say, you know that already, but you know, it's as an astronomer, as astronomically, I think it's interesting. It has been discovered in 1789. Yeah, that's the year of the French Revolution. So it's
Hmm.
the planet of revolution. Yeah, but astronomically, yeah, Uranus is an absolutely crazy planet. Yeah, you know, you have the sun, and
Tilted
then
on
all
its
the
side.
planets. Yeah, all the planets that go like that, Uranus goes like that. And then you have,
Right.
you know, the planets, they have all a moon that turns in a certain thing. Uranus has, I don't know how many planets, and they all go crazy. Yeah. And another thing that a lot of people don't know, Uranus, rather than turning around itself, yeah, it stays actually like that for a couple of years and then puff, it turns. You know, it's really special. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what they say about Aquarius, one astrologer told me that one day. He says, you know, the best thing you can do with an Aquarius, if you want him to walk on the left side of the street, yeah, ask him to walk on the right side, yeah, and he's probably
Reverse
going to walk on the left side.
psychology.
It's true. You know.
Oh,
We
that's
come from a
funny.
different planet. We really come from another planet, and all my life, like you, I've been not that I felt that I was misunderstood, yeah, but I never really felt that I fit in. You know, I never really felt that you know, for me, when they, and it's strange because they say Aquarius is it's the planet, you know, it's the sign of people and love and whatever it is, but at the same time I never really fit in, you know. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I also learned early on, I don't know if this happened
mm,
with you, but I learned early on to like really filter how much I talk about things, that I'm thinking. You know,
yeah,
I learned to simplify what I say in everyday speech quite a bit. You know,
yeah.
because as
Well, the
soon as
thing
you
is, you
start
know, you
talking
yeah,
about anything that goes over people's heads, their eyes glaze over and they're like, okay, whatever, just Joe.
yeah. You've got, of course, you know, you've got that stellium in Aquarius, but you also have an ascendant Virgo, yeah. And at the same time, you got all those planets in Virgo, you know, what in the sixth house, yeah. So don't forget, you know, you have Venus in the sixth house, but in Aquarius, yeah. But that also means that you have a Venus Mercury conjunction. You know, in the astrology that I learned, and that's the same thing. You have the Sun in the sixth house, but that means that you have also a Sun Mercury conjunction. You have it twice. You have the conjunction, you know, Sun, you have, for another example, you have Jupiter in Aquarius, okay, but you have Jupiter in the sixth house. That's also a Jupiter Mercury conjunction. But in your natal chart, you also have Jupiter Mercury conjunct. You know, so basically that Jupiter Mercury conjunction, you have it twice. Yeah. Plus, on top of that, that ascendant Virgo with Pluto on top of that, that's a different story. Yeah? So you're very much Virgo-like as well. So you're probably somebody that goes very much into details, and a person that it's absolutely uncontrollable. And I tell you this, Aquarians are very difficult to control, but the Virgo, yeah, it's a the you know, when you drop mercury, you know, mercury that you have in a barometer, how do you call that in English, you know, that gives you the weather, yeah, that mercury, that, you know, chemical thing, when you drop that, it's impossible to grasp. You know, you have no grip on that. Mercuries are people who
Quicksilver.
have
Yeah.
quicksilver, yeah. When you drop that, you cannot grab that. The only way you can grab that, that's with a piece of paper, you know. You put that, you put it. You learn that when you were at school. Yeah,
Right,
that's the only
or a cup or something, yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So
it's a
you're an
liquid.
Aquarian. So you go you walk the other side of the street on which we expect you to walk. Yeah, but on top of that, you have a lot of Virgo in your chart. So there's something else, huh? Then I think so. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, when you said details, yeah, I mean, I've been in technology for a long time. Like I said, when I was 17, I went in the Air Force and learned aircraft electronics and radar. Then I came
Mm,
out of there and I kind of bumbled around and did like 30 different jobs for 10 years, just trying to figure out what to do with myself.
yeah.
And then I went back to school for aircraft electronics right around my Saturn return. All right. My son was also born at that time. And I graduated from a 2-year vocational diploma in aircraft electronics with straight A's and a 3.9 GPA. At the
Mm,
same time, 3 airlines went bankrupt and
yeah.
flooded the market with people. So I wound up working for 21 and a half years in long distance telecommunications. And I
So,
was the night shift technician for a major long distance carrier in downtown Chicago. And I had multiple large data centers, small phone closets all over the city of Chicago that I was responsible for because I was on
mhm,
third shift from 1999 through 2014. So I was the only technician in the city that was,
yeah.
all the rest of them were in home in bed an hour away at best.
Mhm,
And so, I, you detail oriented, you have to be in technology. If you're not detail
yeah.
oriented and you can't develop a sense of patience, there's no way to handle a position like that because one wrong setting, one thing set wrong, one wrong character in the name in the identifier for a circuit, you can't
Yeah.
find it in the records or things don't work if they're set incorrectly. So you have to
Yeah.
learn to pay close attention to fine details. And
Mhm.
so
That's the 6,000 that gives you that. That's I think you must be extremely creative and original in your thinking. Yeah. But you go into that into detail. It must be. Unless your hour is wrong. But the 6,000 is heavily loaded in your case. And I
mm,
think it's a blessing. That you have there. Yeah. The keyword of the 6,000 is box. Did you know that? Yeah. Box.
no, I
So
didn't. Books,
a lot of
books like you read?
not books, a box, a box
Oh,
in which that you can open, in which you can put stuff. Yeah.
ah,
And they have, yeah, a box. Yeah, box. That's Mark Jones again. Yeah. But you have two uh, types of Virgo. And I'll say it in French because in the psychological books, the terminology is in French, and you probably laugh. Yeah. Because the psychological terms that they use is really funny. Yeah. But it makes a lot of sense. The first one is called anal relâché. Anal relâché. I'll translate in a minute. Okay, give it
okay.
a second. Anal relâché, and the second one is anal retenu. Yeah. How in the world am I going to translate that? They put it in English text, they put it in French because it's basically impossible to translate without you laughing. Yeah. Anal relâché, that means that you anally you keep it up, and anal retenu is that anally you let it go. Yeah. So the box of somebody that is Virgo like you anal relâché, that is that you open the box and everything is chaotically placed in that box. Yeah. And anal retenu, yeah, that is you open the box and everything is very well ordered in that box. Yeah. But psychologically, that's how those people work. Yeah. So that's astrology. Yeah. So you have to figure out for yourself, how you work. Yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised that you have a lot of boxes in your house. You tell me. Yeah.
You see that cabinet behind me?
Yeah.
It's full of like cigar boxes and stuff like that with little trinkets in.
There you go.
It's
There you go.
Uh,
Yeah.
okay. I don't want to turn the computer because I won't disconnect it, but I
No,
have a
no, that's fine. It's
bookshelf
fine.
over here. It's like two-thirds of the way to the ceiling, and it's like all cubes, and
Yeah.
yeah, yes,
Box. Yeah.
yeah.
So it's up to you to see now. When you open one of those boxes, is within what's inside of those boxes. Is it very well ordered, yeah, or is it scattered chaotically? around, what's in the
To
boxes.
other people, it might seem chaotic. To me, it's
Uh,
order. All
okay.
right. I know
Mm,
what's generally in most of them. Occasionally, there's one item maybe or two that I can't remember where I put them, but for the most part, I know where everything is. I've got a good map of it inside my
mm.
head. I look like I live in a chaos cloud,
Yeah.
but I really don't.
But you have Gemini's on the cusp of your 10th house. That means that you have Mercury in the 10th house, yeah, and that means that's how do you say that in English? You have there where the airplanes come together. How do you call that? It's an help me out here. Where the airplanes come. When you have to catch a plane, it's the airport. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the control tower of an airport, and you're
Okay.
sitting there on
Okay.
top of that control tower, and you see all the planes coming in at the same time. Yeah, that's in your case Mercury in the 10th house, and in your case you have Mercury in the 6th house. Yeah, conjunct with Jupiter, so you see massive planes coming in at the same time, and you keep complete calm with that. You really control that.
Yeah.
I think so. Huh?
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the places where you had to learn to keep calm was in
Mm,
that telecom position. I mean, you haven't seen stress until you've got the CEO of your company and like the CEO of a trading
mm,
company that trades on the New York Stock Exchange, and they've
mm,
got a 10 gig link from New York to Chicago down, so they can't do trades. Or there's a 10 gig link down for Facebook or for Major League Baseball. And, I mean, that's, the kind of telecom that I used to work on was cross country
mm,
links and voice communications, big switches
mm,
that did millions of calls a day, like 9 to
mm,
11 million calls a day. Um, you know, and, you learned that if you get excited, it's not productive.
mm.
You have to do what I call stay focused on the fix.
Yeah,
If you
stay
get
focused on.
right. Yeah, I mean, if you don't just stay focused on what is it going to take to get
Yeah.
this thing to work, it can overwhelm you. So
Mhm,
I kind of learned through that whole period of my life that getting excited and it's great to get excited for something like a birthday or a gathering or seeing a friend and stuff
mhm,
like that in a positive way, but getting all upset and freaked out will not help you get through a
yeah.
situation.
Yeah, it's true what you're
Yeah,
saying. Yeah.
so
Yeah,
yeah,
but the thing is, you also have your moon in Aries. Yeah, so that means emotionally, you must be you must be a firing guy. Yeah, you must be full of energy, I suppose. And because Aries it's an energy without direction. Yeah, and when you have the moon in there, often those people when with the moon in Aries are emotionally uh, scattered. They sometimes go to places. It's like an energy with no direction, basically. Yeah.
well, for me, it translates more into like when I see something that needs to be done, I tend to just do it rather than think to ask about whether I should.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It kind of keeps me a little bit driven,
Hmm.
I think. Um, but emotionally, yeah, I would put myself in the category of like I've got like a big bomb at the end of a very long fuse, but as long as the fuse doesn't get all the way to the end, everything's great.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is. But today, are you still working, Dan, or you retired now?
No, no, I'm still working. I actually started teaching information technology about three
Okay.
years ago. I started in at the end of 2017, beginning of 18. I started studying information technology because telecommunications was getting too old school. And so I needed to kind of switch which portion of the industry I was in. And so
You like it? You like what you do? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I do.
Mhm.
And so after I got my first certification, which I got fairly early because all I did was go to school every day, it was open, open to close. Um,
Mhm.
they hired me to teach what I had just learned. And then I kept working on more certifications. So now I've been teaching information technology, and as I pick up new things, I start to teach those things as well.
Mhm.
And most of my students are adult veterans, mostly military veterans. This just happens to be the student population of the
Yeah.
school that I teach for. It's a small
Mhm.
private college. Um, but I would also put it more in the category of more than a teacher, I'm more like a coach. A lot of this
Mhm.
is like online computer-based training where people are watching videos and doing online labs and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And like when they're having trouble grasping a concept, I get them over the edge with that. I kind of get that make help that come
Mhm.
through. Or when they get stuck on this point or that point, that's where I help them get over that. Or when they're trying to strategize, how do I go about
Mhm.
getting my certification
Mhm.
at the end of all this training? How do I actually walk in and take the test and pass it? So I'm more like a facilitator and a coach um, than straightforward teacher like you teach a subject from start to
Mhm.
finish. It's much more
Yeah.
of a hybrid kind of situation.
You know what
Yeah,
I do think that people that are born in 62 have in common, with that stellium, yeah, is that the key word for Aquarius is cape. Cape. So you have a cape, and it gives you warmth. But the reason it is cape is that it means that we are able, and I think we share that talent. Yeah, we are able to cape ourselves. Yeah. Uh, uh, Towards the person that we have in front of us. Yeah. In other words, we easily can become the other person that is our vis-a-vis, that is in front of us. Yeah. And that's a gift. And I think that's a gift that we have all in common, because it's typically Aquarian. Yeah. So they are often phenomenal coaches. Yeah. Because to be a good coach, I think you have to be able to identify yourself with the person that's in front of you. Otherwise you
right,
can't do it.
exactly. You have to have
But
some
that's a
empathy
talent.
for that person.
That's our talent that we certainly have in common, I think. Yeah. And if you are a coach, I mean, that's to have all that stellium in Aquarius. That's a gift and it's a blessing, I think. Mhm.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy what I do. Right, and
Yeah, yeah.
I
Uh,
probably out of all the things that I've done in my life, I probably enjoy this one the most because I
yeah.
can see the benefit where it helps people.
But then I have a question for you, then, okay? Because how long is it you've been working there? 3 years now?
Hmm.
Yeah. Because I don't know what's happening in my life. We have the same stellium, and so we have the same sort of aspects going on for the moment. Yeah. But I'll make it fast. Is that last year in March? No, last year in February, my wife, she had a fantastic job. She made a heck of a lot of money. I'm in real estate here, so I was making good money. Aquarius ambition. I play music, I write, I do astrology. For me, doing real estate was to put bread and butter on my table, but I was making good living, yeah, without being much too ambitious, yeah. But then that pandemic started, yeah. And in March last year, out of the blue, yeah, my wife, she loses her job. I don't see any clients anymore. We had a terrible year. And I don't know what's happening. Yeah, I know astrologically speaking, I understand, because I know the aspects that we have. But I'm actually living an extraordinary time for the moment.
We are.
I'm not going to say that I'm very lucky, but I'm selling like I never did before. I sold a lot of, even people wake me up while I sleep, to buy some property of me. I don't know what's happening. It's astrology. I can explain. Yeah, but that's the question that I have for you. Yeah, doesn't it feel for you that it's sort of like one of the better moments in your life for the moment?
It is in some ways, and in others, it's kind of tough watching everybody around me. I mean, I'm lucky. I'm still working.
Yeah.
A lot of people are not.
Yeah.
Now, and I'm teaching information technology. What's been more critical for society right now than information technology?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be hard pressed to say other than medical technology. I mean, or medical research and the vaccines and stuff, but otherwise, what's keeping us connected right now? You
Mhm.
know, it's all this information technology. Being able to help people deal with that and walk through that is like a
Mhm.
critical function right now. You know, so and for you, putting people in homes. I mean, people need a place to go to be safe, right?
Mhm.
They do, and um, you know, I don't know if you're in commercial real estate or if you're more in the residential side of things, but you know, people need a place to settle in this time frame.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, so I can understand why the
Mhm.
housing market is still pretty hot even over here in the United States, even
It's
though,
amazing, yeah. But
yeah, despite the pandemic, but you know,
yeah.
people are probably looking for a place to settle in
You know,
where they
then I'm
can
going to
feel
tell you
safe.
the last three properties. I could say one, but the last three properties that I sold are properties that the clients have not seen the property. They bought from me with a WhatsApp camera. Yeah, I showed them the property. This is Aquarius stuff. Technology and all that thing. Yeah, but I showed them property. With a video camera, and they pay a deposit from abroad, and it's just unbelievable. And not small properties of 100,000 euros. I'm talking about 1.5 million, 2 million euros. It's just amazing,
Yeah,
even this
that is
morning.
because that's way above my level.
No, but I'm just saying. I mean, it's
Yeah,
it's just it's remarkable, yeah. And okay, we have that Saturn return, and only when you have, and don't forget, then we have a beautiful stellium, yeah. But our stellium is opened up with Saturn Mars, and Saturn Mars before the trans-Saturnian astrology. That means you have the astrology that was being practiced before they discovered Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Yeah,
right,
before they had those three planets. That's the era before that. Yeah,
right. The
Saturn and Mars
original
was.
ruler of
Yeah,
Aquarius. Yeah,
Saturn Mars conjunction was considered to be the most terrible aspect. That was a terrible aspect. People that had that in their chart, they were doomed. You know and yeah, don't forget that. I mean, we have a beautiful stellium, but it's opened up with Saturn Mars. And funnily enough, today you have the same stellium, and the planet that's missing is Mars. Strangely enough, I'm just making the thing now. But so we have that, and Saturn Mars, that means that aspect. An astrologer once said people that have that aspect in their chart, they have to forge their destiny, yeah, like a sculpture. Sculpt a very hard block of marble. You know, uh, Hammer by hammer, you've got to smash into that until you have a beautiful figure. Yeah, but that's our stellium, and unfortunately, and the people that are born now, they don't have that. So I think it's going to be a quantum leap for those people. Yeah, but again, I mean, we have that beautiful stellium, but with that Saturn Mars, it's not easy. Also, that aspect, now that I mentioned it, gives a lot of problems with the tooth, with teeth in general and bones. Yeah, so be aware of that as well. We have a lot of bones problems. Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
So
I've
that
been through a
Saturn
little bit
Mars.
of that.
Yeah.
Last time
Yeah.
Jupiter was conjunct my natal chart, I broke my left ankle. Is that
Yeah.
typical Aquarius or what? Yeah.
And how you explain your Pluto on the cusp of your ascendant there? It's straight on your ascendant. How do you feel that? How would you explain that? In your case.
Well, that I don't know much about it. So
No.
I mean that's like one of the areas in astrology where I'm not really that strong.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how that plays out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that Pluto on the cusp of the first house, it's still in your 12th house. Huh? It's only 9 degrees apart or 7 degrees apart from your first 7 seconds. So you could actually say it's part of your first house. Yeah. And the first house, that's what people see from you. Okay. So for me now, you are my seventh house. Yeah. No, what I see from you, that's your first house, but I'm your seventh house. Yeah.
Mm.
And Pluto in mythology, Hades Pluto, Hephaestus Pluto, he had a helmet that made him invisible. You know, he had a helmet that made him invisible. So when you have Pluto on the ascendant, yeah, are often people, yeah, that are invisible for other people. It's like you're not there. Yeah, You can be in the middle of a group, yeah, and it's like you would look around you and you would think it's like I'm not here, you
I'm
know?
the one that's sitting alone watching everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
And
had
and
that
now
a
you say
lot.
something, and Pluto, that Pluto in the first house, really in the first house, you have it on the cusp, but in the first house, yeah, the image they give on that aspect is a loner sitting on a bar stool, yeah, having a drink by his own. And also, you walk into a bar, and there's a guy sitting on that bar with a drink, yeah, with a smile on his face. That's the image that I give on the Pluto on the first house. Yeah. Because before, when we started our conversation, you said, yeah, but I always felt like I was from somebody else and, I don't fit in, etc. But at the same time, you have to make a distinction with that Pluto on the first in the first house. Yeah. It's that you often must feel, I'm pretty sure, if your hour of time of birth is correct, yeah. But like you feel like, you walk into a gallery and it's like people don't see you. It's like you are the invisible man. Yeah.
Oh, that happens all the time. Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, it's like people don't take
Uh,
me seriously. Maybe that's what's coming across.
uh,
That's the
uh,
way
uh,
I perceive it.
uh,
Um, yeah, it's pretty easy to fade into the background
uh.
if I want to. But
I,
then
li- I live across a school, and they just finished their football game. My gosh,
it sounds
sorry.
like they're in a good mood.
Yeah, apparently they don't break it down here, and that's another thing. Every time where I lived somewhere, when I moved house, I always lived in front of the school. Always. Funny. Yeah.
Uh,
It's always just across. There is a school where I lived before. There was a school. Not far.
I did once live close to a college, and I was working on third shift when I was
Mm,
like across the street from a college
mm,
campus, and they decided one morning to have or one day to have a
mm,
concert in the on their grounds right over there, and I was working the
mm.
night shift, so I was home trying to sleep, and I was like, I better go get a hotel because there's no way. They had like
You
all
you don't
kinds
do
of bands
anything.
playing.
You don't do anything like music or poetry, or you don't have any creative
Oh
passion.
no, I do a lot of poetry. I definitely do a lot of
You
poetry.
do,
I've been like a cartoon artist, what I'd say outside art since I was
Oh, really?
a kid. Yeah, I draw and paint a little bit. It
Mm,
comes in like I'll have a burst and then I won't for a long time. But yeah, poetry definitely on and off since the early 2000s. I futz around with the tenor saxophone and guitar and singing
seriously,
a
yeah.
little bit,
Okay.
but I'm not really good at them because I haven't
Mm.
like I've said about us Aquarians, we don't focus well. So it's like kind of like being a jack of all trades, kind of pretty good at a few of them,
Hold on a
but
minute. Hold on a minute. We're gonna have a look because it's getting out.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry. And then, but those kids. There were some kids here in front, yeah, and there is a garbage can a little bit further with crystal, yeah, and I just opened it up, and all the crystal is in the street now. Funny. Enfin, in any case,
All right, so I
yeah,
just sent you in chat.
okay.
There's a domain that goes to my poetry blog, and um, I
I'll
don't.
have a look at it. I won't
Yeah,
click on it now because otherwise my
yeah,
computer is going to
later.
shut
But
down.
there's also a poetry website that when I first started online, I was putting all my poetry in there. I had like 1,800 or so poems published on this site.
Uh-huh.
And then the thing went down in 2015. The owner of the site couldn't afford to keep it hosted anymore. It just got too expensive. But I ended up getting a backup copy of that website, and so I've got it set up to run on one of my local computers, and I've got a copy of the whole website. all everybody's stuff on there, so I can make it run like it was online on my one
Mhm.
computer. And so I've been copying and pasting the old stuff to this blog as I have time, but I'm on page like 6 out of 35 pages of
Okay.
titles to deal with, and so but there's a ton of poetry on that website, and I've been
I'll
doing
have a
it
look
for
at it.
years.
I'll send you a link of what I do, but that's an old video now. I think it's 10 years old or something. But I play some music as well at times. Okay. So you can watch it later if you want to. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, Although it's an old video, but I certainly will have a look at your poetry because I love poetry. I always did, actually. And I wrote a lot of poetry when I was younger. And now that I talk with you, maybe, I might pick it up again, write some stuff. And why not? That's the thing with me. I mean, I know quite a thing or two about astrology, but I have a bad pen. You know, I think I speak 7 languages, but I don't speak any language very well.
Well,
Uh,
I speak
so and
about
then
300 words of Spanish, but
de
um,
verdad, sí. That's the thing. I mean, and then if I would love to write much more about astrology, but you've got to be able to write it down. I've got that inspiration, and often I give lectures verbally. A lot of friends they come here and then I talk about astrology all night long if you want to. And when I have a bunch of people in front of me and I start talking about astrology, yeah, I don't know how come, but it really comes from somewhere else. It just gets in me and it pours out like an aquarium. But to write it down, basically, that's for me. It's not that it's difficult, but I don't have that magical pen. Some people have that touch to be able to write very well, that's something that I cannot do,
oh,
unfortunately.
I'm not generally a rhyming poet. No, it's not that
Mm,
way. Rhyming, I don't. I do more freestyle poetry. I don't really know the formal forms and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
I'm much more of a textual communicator than I am a verbal communicator.
mhm,
I'm far better at expressing ideas and concepts at depth in writing
mhm,
than I ever was verbally.
mhm,
And I think it has to do a lot with the nature of conversation, interpersonal conversation, because when you're talking to someone, we tend to interrupt each other to try not to lose a thought that might be critical to what the other person is saying, but that also it's like, the two conversations collide a bit. Whereas when you're
mhm,
communicating in writing, it's one person, then the other person, then one person, then the other person.
yeah,
You
yeah,
see what I'm
yeah,
saying? You get to express a complete thought, and yet the other person can also express their complete thought as well.
mhm,
So I think textual communications has that level to it where you can express thoughts in completion
mhm,
without being distracted by what the other person is saying at the moment, and the other person
mhm,
has the time to not only take in what you wrote but reflect on it and reply back in full. So
mhm,
it's like a full context and conversation,
mhm,
whereas verbal conversation it has a lot of things that textual conversation don't, such as like the emotional tone, the body language, the facial expressions, all those
mhm,
things that are missing in writing. Like if you say anything critical in writing, like critical of what a person is doing or the way they're thinking about something at all, it's taken at like the harshest possible level. People like
mhm.
really take it hard when it's in writing because they don't have any of the verbal and physical visual cues that soften things
Yeah.
like there is in spoken conversation. So they're two very different forms of communication, and I think they're both necessary. I think for being able to express yourself fully and completely, I think written communications is really important for that. But for quickness and emotional depth and all that kind of stuff, you need verbal communications. So,
Mhm, mhm,
but I think I'm better at textual communications than I am at verbal.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons why I play music, I think, as well, because I've got my moon in Capricorn, so my emotions are sort of hold back all the time. Yeah, but when I do play music, yeah, uh, it all becomes free. Yeah, and I have to say that I've been playing since I've been a child, but when you play music a lot, which is my case, music becomes an external entity. It becomes really something apart. It's something that you can actually touch and grab. Yeah, music. Yeah, and when it's there, yeah, that's absolutely magical because it's above the word. That's
Hmm.
another thing we can say about Aquarius. It's Aquarius and Pisces are above the word. Yeah, it's we can talk about it. Yeah, we can use words to make the invisible visible. Yeah, because the only way you can make something visible which is invisible, that's with the spoken word. For instance, to give you a concrete example, yeah, I don't know the color of your socks right now, but if you tell me they're green, you use the word,
Then
yeah,
you're
and
going to have at least some kind of an
I have an
image.
idea. Yeah, also when you go to a doctor, for instance, and he will give you a diagnostic about your illness, yeah, once they put it on the word, it's not the solution of the problem, but at least it's a start. They made the invisible visible. Okay, and that's words. Yeah, but with music you can do the same thing. You can really make emotions visible, I think. Yeah, and we as Aquarians, because we are above that word, don't forget. And then I know I talk maybe a lot about astrology, but that's what I do. Is that a lot of astrologers, when they start to explain the houses, and you said that you maybe have problems with the houses and stuff, but when they start to explain the houses, they start from the first house, the second, and they go all the way to the 12th. Yeah, up until the 10th house, no problem. Every astrologer can you explain, yeah. But once they start, talking about the 11th house, still possible. But when they get to the 12th house, they start to stutter, because it's above the word, yeah. It's part from a different world, and that's Aquarius, So,
Hmm.
so we grasp it, we see it, we feel it, At least I do, I think, yeah. But I'm pretty sure you do as well, yeah. And that invisible thing, that is something that is with the actual stellium that's going on. The fact that you and me talk tonight. The other night I spoke with a woman also from Oklahoma. Yeah, her name is Zoe. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had her 1 hour or something as well, on like you, on the line. Turns out that her chart was completely messed up. I mean, she has been living with the wrong astrological chart for all her life. Go figure. But the fact that I made that invisible visible for her, yeah, it's a life opener. It's a life changing thing. Now that I talk with you about that poetry, it's true that when I was younger, I wrote a lot of poems. I really loved that. Yeah, and the fact that we talk tonight, it opened really channels. And I think the fact that we have Zoom and all of that technology, and something that especially you are, so specialized in, it's like it's telepathy. It's like, it's not even telecommunication anymore. It's really telepathic. You understand what I'm saying now?
Almost, almost.
I can nearly grasp what you're feeling and what you think right now, because we have nearly that same chart as well. I think it's just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's not very many people in this world that kind of get it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? What it's like to be under a stellium like that.
Yeah.
And that's why I was grateful when I found that group on Facebook, the Aquarians of 62. I mean, because
Mm-hmm.
there's a whole community of people like me out there, and
Yeah.
I just didn't even know. I
Yeah,
thought
me neither. Yeah.
I thought I was the only one from the other planet around here.
No, there's a man. We're not the only ones that are crazy. Then it's true.
Yeah, and
We're
we
not
haven't even
crazy.
gotten into
Uh,
any
uh,
of
uh,
the futuristic ideas or stuff that
uh,
constantly flash in out of nowhere. And
absolutely. Yeah.
that's a whole nother conversation on a whole nother level.
That's true.
At some point, probably not for what we're doing today, but yeah,
Yeah.
and Zoe and I were talking about
You talked with Zoe. You know her, yes? But yeah, I suppose.
yeah, I
Yeah.
do. We were messaging back and forth on Facebook a little bit yesterday, and she
Okay.
was telling me that you fixed her chart for her, and I'm like, good. That was really cool because if there's anything someone in our situation
Mm,
needs is an
mm,
accurate chart and understanding,
uh,
right? I mean,
mm,
um, Anyway,
this being said, and I told that story to Zoe as well. Uh, Jones again, Mark Edmund Jones. Yeah, there was a woman once that told him, "Look, Mark Edmund Jones, you've been for the last 20 years. You've been my astrologer. Yeah, and everything that you told me so far was spot on and fantastic, etc." But it turns out that I just recently uh, uh, learned that my birth hour is completely different. It's not AM but PM or whatever it was. Yeah, and so but how come that everything that you told me up until now was correct? Yeah, and John smiled and he said to her, "Well, the fact that you gave me 20 years ago the time of birth, yeah, you made the invisible visible, and for those 20 years that I interpreted your chart, yeah, that was actually correct. Yeah, because and probably for Zoe the same thing, for the last couple of years that she had that wrong chart, yeah, when she met good astrologers that know what they were talking about, they probably made fantastic, interpretations that were according to Zoe's life correct. Yeah, but now she has a new chart, yeah, and it's going to be as relevant, yeah, as the wrong hour that she used, for so many years. You've got to understand that that's really profoundly esoteric, yeah. And if you would explain it to a scientific whatever, they probably will start laughing. But it's part of the invisible world we live in.
unless you talk to a quantum physicist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Unless you talk to quantum physicists, yeah, correct. Yeah,
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 yeah, that's what.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's
That's
not.
exactly that. You see the thing, yeah, yeah. When you look at it, yeah, it doesn't exist. But as soon as you look at it, yeah, it does exist. Quantum
Yes,
physics. It's really that, and I think that's remarkable. And for Zoe now, I'm pretty sure, yeah. Also because as you and as me, that she has now that stellium going over her natal stellium, yeah, that's a life changer. It's a life changer for the woman. She was very nice. Oh, I've got to say on Facebook, she was. I have a very nice contact. Yeah, but what? Imagine you have that stellium in the 12th house. That's a depressing. It's not. I'm not going to say that's a depressing thing, but that's heavily loaded. Huh? All those Aquarius, because Aquarius, that's an energy that wants to break out, that wants to set free. That wants to go out there in the open and stuff. But you have everything, in the 12th house. That's something profoundly. Uh, most of the monks, people that have a lot of planets in the 12th house, they go to a monastery or something, or they become That's why a lot of people with the stellium in the 12th house, they work in hospitals and stuff. They go to monasteries. But if you have that in Aquarius, my God, that's. Oh, I'm happy for her.
yeah, yeah.
Then, look, in a few minutes, my football game is going to start. So I don't want to miss out
Well,
on that
that's all
one.
right. That's all right. It's been a good conversation, and
It's
we can
been a good
always do this
conversation.
another time. So,
You call me anytime. And
yeah,
you got my number now. Even if we don't have anything to say, you just call me. And if you want me to have a profound look in your chart with the transit and everything, whatever day, you just call me. We're brothers in arms, I would say.
there you go. There you go. It's been
Uh,
wonderful talking with you, Pascal. And well,
Absolutely, I enjoyed it as well.
all right,
And I wish you all the best. And I really wish you all the best. Yeah.
you too.
So enjoy those transits for the moment because they're quite powerful. I'm telling you.
Definitely interesting.
Uh,
All
Take
right,
care.
you too.
Bye,
Bye bye.
buddy. Bye. Bye. Bye.